everybody. I want to address cyberbullying for a second. Cyberbullying is an awful event where a person is actually victimizing somebody verbally, mistreating them, speaking ill about somebody, and they're doing it out of spite. Now, you all who are committing cyberbullying, you don't know the negative effect that you're doing to that classmate, that person who you're abusing verbally. You have no idea how they're taking what you're saying, your comments you're saying. And I know somebody right now, a friend of mine, his son, who committed suicide. Cyberbullying affects so many people. And you all play around, you think it's funny, you think it's cool. Aha, look at that person. And just to make yourself feel better, you make fun of somebody else. That shows that you have a weak mind. And you really need to get your life together and stop using your words to destroy and wound people. Now, there are some who do that politically. There's some who wound others politically, and they may be celebrities, they may be politicians, they may be whoever.
This also goes for crybullying. A crybully is someone who uses the perceived righteousness of a social justice cause as a pretext to abuse others, and then plays the victim when confronted about that abuse. A person who considers himself a member of a victimized class who demands that those who don't agree with them all be punished. And the crybully is often oversensitive to perceived slights, but doesn't hesitate to label others. The crybully wears their victimhood as a badge of honor and relies on loud, angry slogans when their viewpoint is questioned. The crybully will attempt then to shame their opponents into silence. This is an example of how crybullying happens inside of college campuses. Students are literally being taught that freedom of speech is not important, that people should not have the right to say what they believe. And so they'll go to different discussions and they'll begin to interrupt them and begin to yell. It's called the heckler's veto. And that way the other person can't hear the other side of the story. So this is what happens. It's called fascism. The fascist replaces God with government, and they don't believe in the freedom of speech.
Sit down.
It's so important to have a civil discussion in America. According to our Constitution, we have the right of freedom of expression and the freedom of speech. When we lose that, we'll lose it forever. So those students who were interrupting Ben Shapiro's meeting were in error. He should be allowed to speak, and the other students should be allowed to listen to him and then be able to have a dialogue, a rational discussion. But this is what's happening in our college campuses today. These people are saying free speech matters, free speech matters. It's time to stop saying that you were bullied, when you know very well that you are the one who started and were continually bullying people from the very get-go. By continually crybullying, you're delegitimizing real bullying that occurs, where there are people who are being threatened and lives are being endangered, their emotions are being scarred. There are real people being bullied right now. They're being physically abused and they're being harassed just because of their disability. However, no one ought to use their age, race, gender, their emotional disorder, or physical disability as a defensive weapon, assuming that they were born with a privilege to say whatever they think without question or rational discourse, only to verbally attack those they don't agree with or physically attack them into silence. There are no safe spaces in real life. Parents and teachers ought to be telling you this before you graduate or before you live on your own and get your own place. You need to learn how to defend your ideas with evidence, reason, and facts. You don't think with your feelings, but with your mind, not with loud, repeated slogans that require no thought. Teachers who are more interested in training and raising up political activists instead of critical thinkers have failed as teachers. Teachers ought not to abuse their power by silencing their students, but teachers ought to allow the free expression of ideas and promote the learning process instead of punishing those who have different political views. There is no justice without a right and a wrong. Therefore, there is no justice without absolute truth. If you truly want justice, you'll have to throw out moral relativism. Everyone ought to listen to one another and think about where their thoughts ultimately lead them. Who knows? You may actually learn something by listening, and you may even learn to like learning.
But whatever the case is, it is wrong. You need to take responsibility for your words. You need to take responsibility for your actions and your words. There was a boy, a young man, who was at the school. This one senior began to see this one kid sit on the corner by himself, no one talking to him. The kid was dressed in black, long trench coat, and this kid had glasses, awkward looking, very skinny, scrawny kid. But there was this one high school senior who actually befriended this kid. His last year in school, decided to befriend this one kid. All right, and just get a chance to know him, listen to what he thought, and mostly what they talked about was life in general and how he felt, about issues and things, and nobody thought of anything about it, nobody. And another lady came by that also actually talked with this one child, this one kid. All right, years later, so the father of the child who was spoken to at school, years later, came to the parents of the singer and said to the parents of the singer, "Thank you so much for your son befriending my son, because I have guns in my house. I'm a gun owner and things, and I had no clue that he was thinking about committing a shooting at the school or committing suicide. And because your son befriended my son in high school, it dissuaded him. It discouraged him from doing that." And that's what the father of that loner kid. Now that loner kid no longer is lonely anymore. He's married. He's got a good job, does well for himself, and makes an impact in this world today, helping companies be successful. And I won't mention the kid's name, but now he's an adult, of course, now. But that high school senior was me. And so you never know what life you'll touch while you're in school. It was always my desire, the Lord had put in my heart, to really make an impact, to not be like the kids around me, but to be different. Because Jesus calls his people to live differently. When things weren't going on at my school, we started a Christian club. I wanted to make an impact. I said, even when I was a freshman in my high school, "Lord, take me from where I'm at now to where you want me to be and how you want me to live." And that's how I wanted to be while I was in high school. Because you're only that age at a small amount of time. You never know the impact that you'll have at that young age. Somebody needs a friend. Somebody needs a friend to talk to. And they need Jesus. They need a relationship with God. That's the most important thing, if I can convey to you, is everyone needs a relationship with Christ. And Christ is the only way to God. The only way to know and love him is through Jesus Christ. You never know the end results of who you talk to, because you never know what tragedy you could be resolving. I didn't know I possibly prevented a school shooting or a person committing suicide. What's the value of human life before your eyes? I know our culture says that human life is trivial, but you never know the impact that one human life would have made if he would have lived. If somebody decided not to cyberbully that child, if someone decided to befriend that student, that person off to the side, instead of writing them off as a misfit, getting to know that young man, because there's so many young people right now who have no fathers, who have nobody to talk to, no one imparting them identity. They just have a culture that's screaming in their ears, who wants attention because they have a political motive in using children and parading them outside their classrooms. But they don't really listen to the kid. They don't listen to their concerns. They may be abused or being abused. And you are the first line of defense, young people. Yes, you. You are the first line of defense. It's not the police officer. It's not the sheriff's department. It's not even the FBI. And sometimes it's not even the parents. It's actually you. And it's time for some of you who know better. That's right, I'm talking to you, Christian young people who should know better, to stop listening to your peers and bullying the other young people, or just ignoring that young person off the side there who doesn't have any friends, or who they call him a misfit. You need to step it up, and you need to be a friend of that child. You need to be a friend, because who knows? You could be the next person who prevented a school shooting. Because instead of blaming an inanimate object like a gun or a knife or something, why don't we look inward and say, hey, could we do something more? Could we show some more civility as humans?